First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. This is Fox 12 Now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. I appreciate it. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every weekday. And don't forget to download that Fox 12 Oregon app. Great way to watch us live or after the fact. So however it is, thanks for doing that. We cover a wide range of topics, but right now we're going to talk about getting out into the wilderness, something that I think a lot of people here in the Northwest, of course, love to do, whether that's going out for a hike, going camping. But there is something to be aware of, and that is you do need to be prepared. Some of the terrain is rough, depending on where you go. And sometimes people end up getting into trouble. Now, that could be something of their own fault, something of their own doing, some accident, lots of different reasons that can happen. But sometimes you got to call for help and get rescued. Well, in Skamania County, they're reporting that their rescues are up 400% over the previous year when it comes to that, as far as those calls that they've been getting. And some of those may be preventable. We're going to talk all about that right now because we are joined by Skamania County Sheriff Summer Scheyer. And thank you very much for being here with us. I appreciate it to have this conversation and talk about this and the proposal, too, that we're going to get to here in a minute of potentially finding people who may be going out there unprepared and needing rescued. But before we do that, can you just maybe give us a little bit of an overview, of some of the things that you're seeing up there, particularly with this increase in calls?
Sure. So I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, granted, we have the most amazing volunteers that come out and do our search and rescues for us and go out in the field. But we have to assign a search and rescue coordinator in the state of Washington. I'm required as the respective sheriff of my county. I'm responsible for search and rescues. And so we have to take a staff member, one of our deputies who has special training, to go out and actually coordinate the search themselves. So that's either taking somebody off the road, which typically we don't have that manpower. This is a 1,600 square mile county with very limited resources. And so a lot of times we have to take them out on overtime, and that's very costly to the county. I wish I could tell you why our search and rescues have increased so much in 2025. I would love to be able to prevent that, both for the resource drain and the taxation on our poor volunteers. They are absolutely exhausted at this point. We've already had, I think today is our fourth search and rescue today for the month of June. So we're still right on track to keep beating these numbers. The 400% increase is just for the month of May compared to last year. In April, we had a 200% increase. And in the first quarter, January through March, was a 550% increase.
Wow, that is definitely a big increase. And just correct me, just to make sure I heard that correctly from you. You said there's one today even?
Correct, right now.
Wow. And when we're talking about these search and rescues, what are the general circumstances, or what are some of the circumstances that people are facing to where they need to end up calling in for help or evacuation, whatever that may be?
It varies so significantly, and that's why, this is, it can be all over the place. It could be that they've gone into an area where they're not prepared for the terrain, whether it's physically or with the 10 essentials that they should be carrying. We have people that will go in too early up into the higher elevations in their vehicles and get stuck where they need rescuing, especially if they have children and, they can't get themselves out. We have to go. I have noticed that some of the commenting on our Facebook page has said, just call AAA. AAA does not leave the pavement. They will not respond, nor do many tow truck drivers. So often we are tasked for getting the person. We don't get vehicles very often, but we will go get the person and ensure that they're safe.
Gotcha. So yeah, they call, they're stuck. The vehicle may be out of luck until better weather or something like that, but at least you'll go get them out of there.
Exactly.
And have you seen an increase in the number of hikers or the number of people that are out there in the wilderness? I don't know if that's something that's even really trackable very well, but since we do have this increase in the number of rescues, is it particularly hikers or people who are ill-equipped, or these different things are happening, or is it just because the number is so much more?
We don't track the actual visitors to these areas, so that's not something that I would be able to say for sure. We did notice a significant increase from 2020 to 2021. There was a 40% increase overall, which you could start by talking about the Eagle Creek fire, and that it forced a lot of Oregon hikers over in 2017 and the popularity of the gorge may have increased with that. Obviously, we know what happened in 2020 and 2021, where often, a lot of people weren't working or were working remotely and had more freedom per se. And I think that they took to the outdoors, which is awesome. It's great until you have to rescue them.
Well, when it comes to these rescues and some of the different situations, that you're seeing as far as why people are needing them, let's talk about this idea of negligent or reckless hiking and getting into the wilderness like that. So when you're referencing something like that, what would you quantify as negligent or reckless?
Sure. So just for an example, and to clarify, this ordinance, it's in the infancy stages. And there's already language within our RCW, which is the Revised Code of Washington, which are the laws in which we follow and enforce. There's already language for negligence, although it's criminal negligence, which this would not be a criminal act. But we already have language to truly define what negligence is, and we have definition truly what recklessness is. And so what we see mostly is negligence, not being prepared, not having redundant equipment, not having water. And one of the big things too is simply not having the physical ability to do the things that somebody's doing. And, that's a quick Google search. We all carry a little or most of us carry a little mini computer in our pocket or our purse, known as a phone. And you can quickly reference the difficulty levels of trails, as well as most trailheads have the kiosks do have some type of reference to the difficulty of these trails that somebody's about to embark.
So this would be encouraging people to understand their own physical limitations, I suppose, or abilities.
Absolutely. And, Dog Mountain we had another search on Dog Mountain yesterday. It has been an absolute nightmare this year. And albeit it is absolutely gorgeous. It's a wonderful place to go. It's obviously regulated by a permitting system during the wildflower season because it is so popular. But it is a very difficult hike, and we've had numerous injuries up there. And we've had some people where they aren't physically capable of doing that very hike. There are other hikes that are lower level, flatter, and different options within the gorge. And although I know people are very excited to see Dog Mountain, I think they need to do a little more work on their physical abilities before they go and try to tackle that mountain.
When it comes to the rescues, obviously you're going to answer the call for whatever that rescue may be, but for this idea of actually finding someone afterward, potentially for negligence or recklessness, how would you determine that, and how would that be applied?
So it would be like anything else that we do. There would be an ordinance. It cites the reckless and negligent prongs. And then as the first responder, we have to meet those elements of that violation to prove that it actually occurred. Again, it's a citation. It's not a fine or an infraction. It would be like a speeding ticket. We still have to prove that that person was speeding with our training, knowledge, and experience, meeting those elements. This wouldn't be any different. And then the person has due process. They can go and take that infraction if they want to contest it, go through the court system, tell the judge why they were not guilty or that what mitigating circumstances occurred. So I think this is a very fair approach to try to mitigate an issue. What I'd like to see is that we don't write a single infraction, and that the search rescues that we do go on are just simply that, an accident. And those do occur. That there are things that simply happen and that are unpreventable, even if you have all of the necessary equipment and training that you could possibly have. We understand that, and I think that that's where our resources should be used, and that is our job. Where we're having to deal with, and it's, people need to have some self-accountability for the choices that they make. And in this, maybe this will be something that people really truly think about some of the actions that they take before they do embark on some of these more difficult trails.
Yeah, thinking that through before they leave the home. For you, for a recommendation, I guess, to hikers in general out there who are watching this, or people who are going up into the woods or thinking about doing that, what would you recommend they do to make sure they are prepared before they even head out there?
Research the weather, research the elevation in which you're going, research the trail itself, research the checklist for 10 essentials. And when I say, I tell people, I go, you need analog as well as digital. So having that phone is a great thing. It can be a great thing, but have a map and have a compass, a hard map and a compass, because it will help you in navigation, know how to use them, because batteries do die. Have a backup battery. You can get very lightweight ones. Have a fire starter just in case, an emergency blanket, and a lot of water, especially with an electrolyte on these hot days. Food is always great. It obviously, nutrition is important, but it's not something that is at the top of the list, in my opinion. And layers, even on a hot day, wearing, and sweating through your clothes, and then you may have to be waiting for 6 to 8 hours for a rescue. You want to be able to be sure that you have a change of clothes so you don't get chilled if the temperatures drop or weather comes in.
Yeah, all things to consider, especially when you're going out there, because as you mentioned, even if you are prepared, anything can happen when you're out there. Yeah, accidents can happen. One more question here too, just for the idea of this citation, for that to be instituted, where this would be something that you would give to somebody for negligence or recklessness and then decided in the courts. What are the steps and processes necessary to actually put that into action?
So it's in the infancy stages now, as I said before. I'm writing the actual language of the ordinance. It would have to go in front of our county commissioners for any type of approval and signed off by them as well. And our prosecutor would have to authorize it in addition to that. So there's a process. There's definitely steps in government that we have to take. And so we are just starting to work on this. What people don't understand about Skamania County is that we are comprised of 80% Forest Service managed land, another 10% state managed land. It's all public. Those lands are not taxable income for us. We are on a very limited income. We rely on funding that comes from the federal government in lieu of logging. That has not been appropriated this year. And Title III funds that help support search and rescue have still not been appropriated for this year. So we're in dire need of some type of financial support. These operations, I don't know what they're going to look like if we don't get any type of funding. I would prefer that we are harvesting timber responsibly out of our forests, which Teddy Roosevelt designed the Forest Service to do in PARS, a four-pronged idea to have these national forests as public land and for recreation as one, but also harvesting timber as another portion of it. And so if we're not doing that, there is no revenue stream for our county. And I can't make that clear enough, that this isn't a money grab. This isn't being irresponsible with the revenue streams that we do have. It's simply that there isn't a revenue stream.
And these are expenditures that you do have to spend no matter what when it comes to these rescues, since you're essentially funding that by having to take somebody off of the, out of the field or whatever it is to coordinate these rescue efforts.
Correct, and that's the frustrating part, is that there is no funding for it. It is an unfunded state mandate that we, by law, have to rescue people regardless. So it's difficult. I've also been working with our legislative reps to possibly start asking the state for some type of funding for Washington state counties to help fund this mandate. And so I'm hoping that will be prioritized in our next legislative session, that there is some type of relief for counties, especially small counties, looking at the population size. Skamania County has been ranking in the last 3 or 4 years, has been ranking 3rd or 4th in the state for search and rescue operations. We only have a population of just over 12,000 people. So when you start doing the math, really looking at what the tax revenue base is, and then understanding the composition of our county, you realize that scale is very, very out of whack when it comes to how many search and rescues we do, but with extremely limited funding.
Have you spoken to any of the other neighboring counties or the other small counties, that are in this area of Washington that may be encountering some of the same things?
Yes, most of the other sheriffs that I've spoken to regarding this idea that I've had, they said, please let us know how this works out. We are very interested, especially smaller counties that are tasked with this unfunded mandate.
Well, yeah, I'm definitely interested to see this too, as far as how this goes. Well, Sheriff, thank you very much, for having time to talk to us about this and just explain through everything. Is there anything else that you would like people to know, just, for either your county residents or for people who are going there to Skamania County?
Yeah, so I'm not trying to deter tourism by any means. Tourism does cost public safety entities, though, I will say that. I don't want people to be inside. I think it's wonderful that they go outside. I think that is such a healthy, great activity that we all need to go soak up the vitamin D, go get some exercise. So I think that's great. What I'm trying to truly deter is just people making really poor decisions that often are preventable. I realize that in our summaries, when I write the summaries for our search and rescue operations at the end of the month, the details aren't there. So although it may not appear reckless or negligent, most of those are.
Well, Sheriff, thank you very much for joining us here on Fox 12 Now. I really appreciate your time and willingness to talk to us and to go through this and cover this issue. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You bet. And for everybody watching, this is Fox 12 Now. We are live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. We have more coming up, and we get to do these longer form segments and have these discussions like we just did there with Sheriff Scheyer. So thank you very much for being a part of that. Download that Fox 12 Oregon app. We're going to take a break. I'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. And we're off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was great. I really appreciate it. It's kind of nice to get some clarification for the temperature that I kind of took from some people out of our Facebook comments. So I think it maybe sheds a little light on what we're coming from, what we're doing.
Yeah, and I can get you a link to this too. Probably later on today, I'll have one that I can send over as well. So.
Oh, that would be great. I'd love to share it so that people